because I understand, or at least have attempted to understand through your voices, your concern.
America, I just watched a police chief break down in tears at a press conference, not because his officers died, not because the innocent civilians were hurt, but because he had to admit 2 Venezuelan gang members shot by Border Patrol were actually connected to Tren de Aragua. Portland's army of barista beta males are out here defending gang members who tried to run over federal agents. And the media, they're running interference like their lives depend on it.
We are all shaken and outraged by another terrible, unnecessary, violent event instigated by the reckless agenda of the Trump administration.
Terrible, unnecessary, violent event caused by Trump's reckless agenda, not by the gang members who tried to commit vehicular homicide. What is up, guys? Tyson DeLaCruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. This is what happens when low testosterone leadership meets media manipulation. Let me start with the most pathetic part of this press conference, the apology. Bob Day is literally apologizing for sharing information about criminals.
I hesitated to even share this information initially because I'm very aware of the historic injustice of victim blaming.
Historic injustice of victim blaming. These are gang members who weaponized a vehicle against federal agents, and he's worried about victim blaming. This is what happens when you promote based on ideology instead of competence.
I want to speak for just a moment specifically to my Latino community, because I understand, or at least have attempted to understand through your voices, your concern, your fear, your anger.
My Latino community. He's treating an entire ethnic group like they're personally offended by existence of Latino gang members. That's actually racist, assuming that law-abiding Latino citizens identify as violent criminals just because they share ethnicity. You know what should sadden you, Mr. Chief Bob? That Portland has become a magnet for gang activity, that Border Patrol has to conduct operations in your city, that your sanctuary city policies force federal agents to work without local support, that you're more concerned about feelings instead of facts. This man has been so thoroughly feminized by progressive ideology that basic truth-telling requires emotional support teams and a box of tissues. Let me tell you who Portland's leadership is crying about. Tren de Aragua isn't some community organization helping immigrants adjust to American life. They are a transnational criminal enterprise that makes MS-13 look like a neighborhood watch program. These aren't people fleeing from violence. They are violence. Human trafficking, drug distribution, extortion, murder. We've been talking about it on this channel for a long time. They've been flooding into the United States when Biden had his open border policy, and they're setting up operations in cities with, you guessed it, weak leadership, cities like Portland.
Politicians and protesters across Oregon are condemning federal immigration enforcement in Portland after a Border Patrol agent shot 2 people in the Hazelwood neighborhood.
Every single time, because defending criminals is more important than protecting citizens when you're a Democrat politician. It's not a bug. It's a feature. This wasn't some random encounter. Border Patrol conducted a large targeted operation against individuals known with gang affiliation. They identified themselves as federal agents. The driver chose to weaponize his vehicle. That is not a tragic accident. That's attempted murder on a federal agent. But Portland wants you to believe that this is some human rights violation. Now let's talk about the people who showed up to defend these gang members. Portland's finest barista beta males. They're out here lecturing federal agents about the use of force.
We are standing here today, united as a state, wanting peace and safety in our communities.
United as a state, wanting peace and safety. You want peace? You want safety? Stop protecting gang members. Stop creating sanctuary policies that shield violent criminals. Stop crying when federal agents do their job that you refuse to do or vote for. These are the same people at every left-wing cause in Portland, available to protest at 2 p.m. on a Thursday because employment is apparently optional. Soft, feminized men who've never faced real danger, lecturing people about putting their lives on the line. I guarantee you not one of them knows the suspect tried to run over the agent. They don't care about gang affiliations. They don't care about federal immigration enforcement. They don't care. Federal immigration immigration enforcement is happening, and their programming says it's bad. That's the extent of their analysis. This is what happens when an entire generation grows up without fathers, without discipline, without any concept of personal responsibility. They become professional protesters, defending gang members because it makes them feel morally superior while sipping on an oat milk latte. Now watch how the media strips the story out of all context to manipulate your emotions.
2 people are in the hospital after Portland police say a U.S. Customs and Border Protection agent shot them in Southeast Portland.
2 people shot by Border Patrol. Not gang members, not illegal immigrants, not suspects who tried to commit vehicular homicide. Just 2 people. This is deliberate linguistic manipulation. If they told you the full story, Tren de Aragua gang members weaponized their vehicles against federal agents, you would support the agents. So they strip away the context to make it sound like Border Patrol randomly shot innocent people.
We are all shaken and outraged by another terrible, unnecessary, violent event instigated by the reckless agenda of the Trump administration, coming just one day after the tragedy in Minnesota.
Immediately connecting it to Minnesota to build a pattern. Another terrible, unnecessary, violent event instigated by Trump's reckless agenda. Not instigated by gang members trying to murder federal agents. Not instigated by illegal immigrants who shouldn't even be here. Trump's fault for enforcing immigration law. They're trying to convince you, they're trying to convince me that the problem is federal agents doing their job, not violent criminals they're removing from our streets. And here's what nobody wants to talk about. Portland created this entire situation through their own policies. They are a sanctuary city that actively obstructs federal immigration enforcement. They refuse to cooperate with ICE and Border Patrol. So when federal agents have to conduct operations without local support, when they can't coordinate with local police, when they're operating in hostile environments, operations obviously become more dangerous for everybody.
There is an association with the 2 folks yesterday and TDA. I hesitated to even share this information initially because I'm very aware of the historic injustice of victim blaming.
He knows that these are gang members. He knows that they tried to run over federal agents. He knows that Border Patrol was justified. But admitting these facts contradicts Portland's progressive ideology. So he just cries. He apologizes. He talks about Hispanic injustice because in Portland, telling the truth about criminals is more controversial than the crimes themselves. This is the sanctuary city scam. Create policies that protect criminals, obstruct federal law enforcement, then act shocked when those policies lead to dangerous situations, then blame Trump, blame Border Patrol, blame everybody except for the politicians who created this mess. If Portland cooperated with federal immigration enforcement, these gang members could have been picked up in a controlled environment. Instead, Border Patrol had to conduct a field operation that ended with shots fired. Portland's policies made this more dangerous, and now they're crying about the consequences. Let me share a radical concept with Portland protesters and crying police chiefs. When federal agents identify themselves and give you commands, you comply. You don't weaponize your vehicle. You don't try to run them over. You comply. And you live. It's not complicated. It's not controversial. It is basic common sense that you would think every functioning adult should understand. But Portland's progressive ideology has corrupted people's thinking so thoroughly that they can't accept this simple principle. Instead, they want to debate whether federal agents should be allowed to defend themselves. They want to investigate whether shooting somebody who's trying to run you over is excessive force. They want to apologize for admitting that suspects are gang members. When you consistently side with violent criminals over law enforcement, when you protect gang members over American citizens, when you create policies that make your city a magnet for illegal immigration and crime, you're working against civilization itself. The compliance principle is absolutely simple here. Don't try to murder federal agents and you won't get shot. But that's too much common sense for Portland's leadership or Portland's people to handle. America, Portland's crying police chief perfectly symbolizes progressive leadership failures. He's more concerned about offending people than actually protecting them. He's more worried about being called a racist than stopping gang violence. The barista beta males protesting don't have jobs, they don't know the facts, and they don't care about American citizens victimized by criminals they're defending. They're soft men who've been so indoctrinized that they'll defend Venezuelan gang members over federal agents. The media stripped away all context to manipulate you. They won't mention gang affiliations or attempted vehicular homicide. Just blame Trump and hope you don't ask any questions. Portland chose sanctuary policies over public safety. They chose ideology over reality. Now they're crying because federal agents had to do their job that Portland refused to do. They created this crisis through their own policies, and now they are demanding sympathy for the consequences. The compliance principle remains simple. Don't try to run over federal agents and you won't get shot. But apparently, that's too much for Portland to handle. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comments section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.